we're back. Yeah.
I gotta like calculate the latency in my head.
Yeah, you just gotta like count 1 second back and then you can do the 9, right?
Yeah.
It's all good because they can't see us right now. They can't see your face right now. You feel me? There's words flying all over the screen. It's crazy. Special guest. Oh shit! Special
What up,
guest.
guys?
What up, guys? Who can it be? Who is it?
Who is it?
The
You
one.
announce it. You announce it.
Johnny Appleseed, ladies and gentlemen. We got John Lindahl in the house.
Yes, sir. Woo! What up? What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to just kick it and talk to you guys, and let's chop it up.
Now, chop it up. Chop, chop. Chop it style. Chop it style. Chop, chop, chop it style. Chop it style. Chop, chop. Who won't chop, chop? Y'all remember that? All right, John.
I've never heard that. That's first time.
Baby. All right, give me 16 bars. Top of the dome right now on the beat. Let it go. Ugh.
That honestly, this is your realm. I write. I can do it sometimes. I've been practicing it because I'll like look at something and I'll be like, stop the hate. Cop. I get flustered. Stop the hate. Well, I'm not late to the party. I keep drinking Bacardi with my little shawty. I'm bumping the. I don't even know, dude. It's not my thing. I write really well. I'm working on the freestyle aspect. I think it's truly an art form and I respect it. I don't want to ever put the wrong foot forward, but because I think that's why I sit and write, because it just really it helps me just kind of really focus on my rhythms and not overthink. And I'm just trying to it actually lets me overthink, and I need to stop overthinking and just flow, because I have to work on things so I'm just trying to. I always describe writing music as like creating a bridge between your brain and like the computer or whatever you're making music on. So I still am working on creating that bridge regarding like lyricism, like raps and whatnot from like off the top. I'm still working on creating that bridge, but I can do it writing wise, which is good. But you're more of an off the top. I mean, you can do both, and so I'm working to get on your level in that regard. Honestly,
but there are some real bars on the album, man. First of all, congratulations for getting your album out. Opening night available everywhere right now.
Opening night, ladies and gentlemen. You heard him.
Damian Lamar Hudson's. What are you saying?
Go ahead. You talk.
I was just gonna tell everyone that Damian Lamar Hudson's vocal is featured at the very end of the album during the ensemble. We were singing some show tunes before we started recording, so it's like and it's a very Broadway-esque ending, and so you can hear Damian's powerful voice just really resonating through that whole ending section. It's really, really crazy. So thank you so much for lending your talents on that. Honestly,
thanks for having me, my brother. Thanks for having me. And once again, I have to second what my brother, Mr. David, just stated. Yeah, man, congratulations once again. I know we've talked here and there via text upon the release, but we haven't actually had a face-to-face since you've released this incredible project on Def Jam Records, courtesy of Bobby Boy Records, the greatest label in the world. My brother, John Lindahl, out the gates, running wild. So talk to us, man. Talk to us. Tell us about your experience. Tell us about where you're at right now.
Well, as you say, as you just said, it's honestly been one of my biggest dreams to release an album on a major label, because a lot of the story of the album revolves around me, like my come up and my hero's journey, if you will, because I was signed to another record label, Epic Records, and I got dropped, and my dream there was to just get a single out with my name on it. And when I got dropped, I was like, all I want is to my dream was, I just want my music to be heard and to get released by a major label and to have people support me. And so to achieve that dream of having an album that I wrote in this room that I'm in right now, and wrote and produced it, and just like had and just to have a label support it and put it out and having it be my debut album it was a dream that I've always wanted. I have a million dreams, and just to fulfill that one though is pretty exciting for me, and I'm truly grateful and happy, and I can't wait for all the other Bobby Boy artists to really get their moment, and to like, because I mean, we're all working for our moment. I'm always gonna be working for my moment. It's just, I really support everyone on the label, and I just like, and I always tell everyone, like, anything you guys ever need from me, like musically or like anything, not even just musically, like anything like friendship wise, I'm always down to like talk, because this industry is very like like what we do is very taxing emotionally at times, especially if you care a lot about what you're doing, in my eyes, and I assume that everyone does. So it's just, I've just been through a lot, and this album was kind of the culmination of all of that. I never had a story really before this album. Like I was a kid that just loved to make music, but this album was kind of directed at everyone that ever discounted me or doubted me, and who, you know, literally like dropped me and stuff. And this was my coming of age story, and this is my just moment in the, I don't know, this is just my moment to kind of come back and really show everyone what I can do. And it's just the beginning, which is great. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but I'm very proud of the album. It's my most, it's my best work today to date. It really just trumps everything that I've ever done by a landslide. And so I'm just really proud of it.
Yeah.
Brother John, this is all long-winded. This is long form. So don't limit yourself at all in this conversation. Talk as freely as you want. Take as much time as you want. This is the whole point of this. We're really just opening up the doors, opening up the gates to have a long-form conversation. That's why I believe podcasts are so important, because they give us a great opportunity to get out all of our ideas and all of our thought.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I'm just used to having to like make everything concise, you know, whether it's because you have to, you know, when you're selling yourself to someone, and you're like my brother, like, I don't have to do that to you. I'm just saying, like, I'm used to, like, when I'm talking about like my art or something, or myself in a professional setting, I'm used to having to like make it concise and be like, because they're going to lose interest. But I know that you talk to me about every time we talk about music, and you could talk to me for days about music, and I would just be as engaged in the like 500th minute as I was in the first minute. You know what I mean? It's just how it goes. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm genuinely just so proud of this album, and I just hope it continues to grow. And the good thing was I expected to get, like, I always expect to get, you know, hate even amongst like my fans or outside of it. Like people like saying, oh, I didn't really like feel this, but like I can honestly say I was so surprised to see that everyone that heard it really felt that there was a story that resonated with them, and it meant something to them. And so that, like, I got pretty much from within my fan base, and even people that are new to the album, I got like all positive feedback, which was really exciting for me. And so, and because I literally, like I said, I made this whole thing in here. Like it's literally it's my story. It's like 100% like this is a self-produced album. Like this is my story. And so hearing that and having it resonate with people was just it's really fulfilling. Even if, like, because I get really caught up in numbers and stuff, and even if the numbers aren't what I want them to be, like, at least it's touching, you know, it's like touching the hearts of people. And that's really, like, that's all that really matters at the end of the day, I guess. Not even, I guess, I know. Like,
on the project, John?
Favorite song? There's a few for different reasons. I think I like Chicago a lot because it's really unique. I think that Chicago's a very unique record, and I think that I like that, and I'm really proud of that one. I also love, I think Idols is the most important song on the album because it tells my story. And we had a discussion about this at Silas's crib, at the new post in Silas' crib. You said, like, because people compare me to, actually, I'll go back to this, but I'll say it. The other one I love is Nothing in the World. I love the whole album, honestly. Famous, I really do. But we had a discussion about Idols, and you said you can't compare. Like, you made a really awesome point that I've thought about, but I never thought people would, like, think about it. You said, because you were like, John, like, I know you get compared to, like, Justin Timberlake a lot, but this kind of thing, like you doing a 5-minute song where you're just like rapping from your heart, like from in 3 different beats, like the raps, like classic hip hop style. You said, like, that separates you from, like, you can't even compare John to Justin Timberlake at that point because John does this and he does that. You know what I mean? It's like we're different at that point. And that was I thought, a very insightful observation that you made. And I actually really, really appreciated that. And so that one I think is the most important song. I know your favorite's Nothing in the World. And I love that one too. I think it's timeless. So that's what I think. What's your favorite?
Nothing in the World. And I also love If You Love Me. I was growing up.
That's a big one.
I was going to say Clouds. I like Clouds.
Clouds is really dope too. Clouds
does hit.
Yeah. Let's take a step back. Like, tell me a little bit about the struggle. Like, I know you had a previous record label. You got dropped there. You talk about it pretty much in great depth in Idols. Like, talk about your mental health at that time and sort of like how you recovered and came back. What was that struggle like?
honestly, I'll just be candid. It was not great. Like I'm a very I have a lot. I'm a very persistent, I guess like hardworking person, obviously, and I'm very resilient. I always get back up. But that was the first one I remember there were so many times where I literally would just lay down, and because I was like 18 or 19 at the time, I was really young, and I just got and I remember I would just lay in bed sometimes and I literally like couldn't get up. Like I literally like physically couldn't move. And sometimes it felt like the walls in my room were just slowly like closing in on me. And it was like, cause this is like the thing I care about most in the world. Like just having my message, having my music be heard and being recognized for in the way that all of my idols were. Like that's like my biggest dream. And so, and as a kid, I always had this like innate confidence. Like not that I was ever, shitting on anybody else. It was more just, I knew that if I auditioned for something, I was going to get the role. I knew that if I did this, I was going to do it. Like, I just believed in myself. So, like, just not, and again, in such a confident way, not a condescending way. But then doing X Factor, getting signed to Epic Records, I really, I just kind of, it was the first time people started saying like, no, you don't got it. You know what I mean? Essentially like people saying you're not a star. We don't think you can carry this song. We don't think that you can pull it off, like all of this stuff. And so it was the first time I'd ever heard that. And it was all personal. I say it in the song. It was all like personal things. It was never about like, oh, you need to work on your vocal finesse. You need to work on your runs. You need to work on your playing. It was all just like, you walk weird. You talk funny. You like literally it was like, you don't have swag or whatever the words were. Like literally that was like the stuff that was said, and I was thinking to myself, how can I change that? So that was, and as a young kid developing and feeling insecure, I mean we're always insecure, but especially in our adolescence, like that's when we're the most insecure. And I was just, and so hearing all that was really hard. And so after I got dropped, I was definitely highly anxious, like definitely anxiety ridden. I saw a therapist. I did see like a therapist for a little while, but honestly, I saw them a little bit, but like the biggest thing that helped me get through it, honestly, was just my like parents, just like definitely empathizing with what I went through, but they also didn't let me just kind of sit down and just like get angry at the world, because I was in a place where I was really starting to blame the world and being like, I deserve this. They don't believe I was wronged. I was this and that. And my family was like, well, maybe you were, but so what? Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? And so having them, like, cause they're such hardworking people, and my mom, they're both athletes, and I was an athlete growing up. So it was just like having them, like I did see a therapist, and that was cool. But honestly, having my parents like really care enough about me to tell me the hard truth, and when I'm crying, they wanna like comfort me and stuff, but they would always say they made the harder decisions, specifically my mom, because she was, and my dad helped too for sure, but my mom specifically was there through it. And they were the ones that were saying like, again, like, yeah, you were wrong, but who cares? Like the world doesn't care. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Essentially, you know what I mean?
That's so dope, man. You're so lucky to have parents like that. I met both your parents at your video shoot. They're so supportive and awesome. Like that's a huge victory. Yeah.
I wouldn't be, honestly, like I know I would have gotten back up eventually, but it would have taken, one, a lot longer, and two, I think I would have been a lot more jaded. I don't think I would be as positive or as I just don't think I would have approached things the same way. I wouldn't have the same energy that I have now, and I honestly really like the energy that I bring. I like the positive perseverance, and I like the drive to be great, to be the greatest. I love that I bring. I love that I bring that, and I don't think I would have had they not been so honest with me. And they literally would say like, it was kind of like when I think about like when Michael Jordan didn't make his high school team. Like his dad was and his mom, they were literally just like, well, what are you gonna do about it? Like, you gonna prove him wrong or what? Like, and it's like all of the, I feel like all of the best people that I look up to had, I mean, yeah, they had a lot of inner drive, which I have for sure, but like everyone needs a coach. Like Michael's not winning 6 without Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? Kobe's not winning 5 without Phil Jackson. It's like, it's just, not to like compare it, but it's just that it's also really hard when you're an artist. And Damien, you know this too, because like it's such a solo journey. Like you're journeying down this path alone, and allowing people to kind of like coach you is kind of hard at times, because you're like, no, like I know what I need to do. but like but the finding the people that really have your best like I have your best interest in their heart, honestly, finding people that truly exude that kind of energy for you. It's hard to trust them, but like you do. I'm sorry, I watched The Last Dance, so I'm making a lot of Michael comparisons. Like when Doug Collins, like when he was coaching the team, they never won a final, they never won an NBA title, and Michael didn't want Phil Jackson to come because he didn't want people to take the ball out of his hands, because Doug Collins drew up every play around him, and I can relate to that because I'm like I've had to push myself to get here, so I'm like I don't want anyone to like. Sometimes I get really I get anal about that, but the best thing is Michael eventually relinquished that, and then he because he didn't want Phil Jackson to coach. He's like I don't want it. I don't want it. But now he eventually like let go of his ego, and that's like the hardest thing for artists, I feel like. And we all deal with that. We all have to deal with, and it's not even ego in a bad way. It's just ego in the sense of just because it stems from insecurity, because you want to prove yourself. But it's like sometimes you need people it's a team. Like we really are a team at the same time,
I was going to say 2 questions for you, John Lindahl. But before I get into these 2 questions, I got to make a statement first. You can't talk about basketball and the Lakers with Brandon David in a podcast, because if you do that, we're not going to be talking about music. We're not going to be talking about mental health. Before you know it, this is going to turn into like an NBA dialogue. And
sounds good. Yeah.
But while we're here,
shout out The Last Dance.
While we're here, I'll play ball for a second for the both of you. Let me ask you this, John Lindahl. Who gives you more inspiration in terms of perseverance, MJ or MJ?
Oh, like Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan? That's really tough because Michael said one of the most fire things of all time. Michael Jackson said one of the most fire things of all time whenever because first of all, he like begged to be in the Wiz. Like he was like, I want to be in the Wiz, and everyone's like, you're a bubblegum star. You're not gonna be. You can't transition into adult star and be in the Wiz. And that's how. And he like begged everyone. He knew everyone's line on set, which I think is sick. And I'm just gonna like break down, but and he met Quincy Jones there, and actually ended up getting him to produce the album. The label didn't want Quincy to produce Off the Wall. Michael fought for Quincy, so he did. But then like Michael's sick too, because then he won a Grammy for that album, Best R&B album or Best R&B Vocal or something like that. And they cut to commercial when they were giving him his Grammy, and they said, "How do you feel?" They said like, "Oh, like are you upset?" He said like, and he said, "No, I'm just gonna write a better album next time." And then he comes out with Thriller next. So like you can't really like. That's hard because Michael, then even the next album, then Bad, he has 5 number ones, which is more number ones than Thriller had. So you could make the argument that it was more successful, even though I personally, obviously Thriller is like heralded as the greatest album of all time in pop or whatever. But you could make the argument that Bad even elevated in its own way. You know what I mean? By getting 5 number 1 singles. And then, so Michael Jackson was incredible for that, especially like musically, but Michael Jordan is amazing too, because he just I don't know though. That's hard. I think honestly, I love Michael Jordan, but I think I love him, but I think I actually relate more to Kobe in regards to I'll say Michael Jackson out of those two, with Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson. Michael Jordan's a big one too. But Michael Jackson, I'd probably say I relate more to, because I've had to deal with similar struggles of people saying like, oh no, we're not going to sign you. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, everyone told him that. And I mean, they said that to Michael Jordan too, but it was related to basketball. But I relate to Kobe a lot, because a lot of people don't know, like, I mean, I didn't come from like extreme wealth at all by any means, but like Kobe came from like definite like affluence. And the fact that he just like just worked hard, not to get out of like the gutter or anything, but just worked hard because he just truly loved what he did and was passionate about it. Like that's how I've always felt. Like no one's forcing me to do this. Like I don't like, I don't know, like no one's forcing me to pursue music. I have a desire to be the greatest in the world. Like I do. And that's like how Kobe is. So but it wasn't for like, because everyone used to always tell me when I was signed to my first deal, like, you need to come from the streets if you want to be successful, because that's where the drive comes from. And I wish that I had thought in the moment, like, well, what about Kobe Bryant? Kobe Bryant's like at that time, he was the greatest player in the NBA. Like, I wish that rest in peace, Kobe, obviously, but I wish that I had said that, because I just relate more to him, because he just, regardless of his upbringing or where he came from, he just worked hard and outworked everybody just because he truly loved what he did. And that just goes a long way. And I've always felt like I've had to outwork people, even though I might have come from a different circumstance, So that's, and I don't know I don't know if that answered your question, but I tried to get.
You definitely have on your Laker gold to attribute to what you're saying here. And if you look down at your shirt, it's pretty funny. If I must say, it sounds like you're saying Kobe's more of an influence to you than Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson in terms of perseverance and inspiration. Get back down, I'm gonna get back up. Kind of.
I think.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Jordan. I'll say from a kid, when I was a little kid, like a little kid, I used to watch the Michael Jordan to the IMAX documentary like every day. So as a kid, I would say definitely it was Michael Jordan over Kobe. But as I got older, and I used to think, like, because it was so cool, because like Kobe was the best player in the world. So it was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, everyone likes Kobe, I got to pick another player. But like, I like fell in love with him like over the years, like as I got older, and it was like really cool. I started it was one of those things where I thought we were so different, but then I realized we were like actually like alike in a lot of ways, which I didn't really understand at first. And Michael Jackson, though, like, just the fact he is a big one, just because of how, look, just, I don't know. And because I always wanted to be him since I was a kid. I wanted, like, I had to honestly let go of the dream of being like a child star that transitioned into adulthood, because that was always my biggest dream. I wanted to be like a generational thing like that. Because like Michael Jackson was like that, Justin Timberlake was like that, even Justin Bieber was like that. Like they're these young guys and I never, like, I had to kind of let that go, and that was really hard, because that was like what I wanted my plan to. That's what I had in my head. But yeah, so probably Kobe, just because, I don't know, we came from, like, people would discount me for my background a lot, and people could easily discount him for his background. You know what I mean? Like, coming from like from where, like, growing up in Italy and having like all these amazing tutors and having like more than like Paul Pierce had in Inglewood. You know what I mean? Like, it's just I don't know. I just really yeah.
Do you think that perseverance, that hustle, can be learned, or is that something that you're just born with?
I think you can learn it. It's truly, because here's why I say it's. I think it can be. Yeah, you are born with it, like people are. But I think if your passion for something is strong enough, you have to experience like extreme heartbreak for it to really, like, bust through. Because like I said, I just pursued music and everything because I loved it, and it was like I knew that was my like passion. I didn't really have a story though. I just like was this kid that was trying to be the greatest artist in the world. But it's like, why? Like, what's your story? You just grew up, went to school, and decided to do this. Like, I had to. But then getting dropped by the label and having my heart broken, like the biggest heartbreak of my life, like that was when I knew this is, like, I have to elevate even what I do now. So and not to say that I always worked really hard though. But I do think that it can be learned though. It just depends on how much you love what you do, like, honestly. And you have to be so real with yourself and be like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get where I want to go. And that'll crush me. Like, you have to be real with yourself and know that you have to, I don't know, like, so that's my thought on it.
I noticed somewhere on Idols, you mentioned a conversation that you were having with your parents in which they were wondering or suggesting, do you want to go to school? Do you want to go to college? Is this during that Epic Records episode?
It's
chronologically.
Yeah, well, okay, I got signed to Epic my junior year of high school. So I did my first half of my junior year in school, and then I got signed in December. And so second semester I did online, and I did the rest of my junior and senior year. Like, so I did a semester and a half. Sorry, I did 3 semesters online to finish my high school. But then I got dropped a year after finishing high school. So like I was like 19 when I got dropped. And we had tried for a few months to get me signed to other labels, because my management at the time was saying like, oh, don't worry, I have these other label meetings lined up, and we'll get you you'll get another spot. Don't worry about it. And I met with like every label under the sun, and literally all of them had the same conclusion, like, you need to get your social media up. Like, we don't want to because I just didn't have any fans, and so they didn't want to take a chance on it. And I was really active on social. I would always try, but I just couldn't like get people to see me, So then after that, it just seemed kind of hopeless. And my mom, like, and dad, they wanted me to they obviously want me to be happy and continue, but they saw me like crying like every day. Like, it was like I was so like my heart was so broken. It was just I was literally frozen, didn't really know how to act and do and do what I needed to do, because I was so heartbroken, and I was just crying all the time. And they just literally were saying like, well, do you want to go to school? Because my plans was initially to go to Berkeley School of Music before I got signed, to like learn audio engineering, so I could like, make a career in music and then maybe make it happen later, because I kind of felt like it wasn't going to work out. But then I got signed randomly. But after I got dropped, they said maybe you should go to college, and I was like, I can't. Like, I just knew that I had to keep going. I knew I just had to get my mind right, like, and figure out how to work through these emotions. And when I told them that, they again, like, they were so supportive and helped me do that. You know what I mean?
Do you remember what music you were listening to during that?
Yeah, literally, I can get 2014 Forest Hills Drive literally is the album that like got me through all. Actually, honestly, it was that, and funny enough, it was that and Under Pressure a lot, like, actually, because I remember I would say Forest Hills Drive the most, because it was just like, I have this vivid memory of one time. I'll just say it because it's cool. I mean, I have two different times. So one time I was remember when I said this in one of my videos. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I said when I got dropped by the label, I had a song that was gonna come out that I didn't write, but they basically like made me cut a song. And they were going to put the song out for me, but then they just kept like taking it away from me and giving it back to me and taking it away from me and stuff. And then they ended up like saying, nah, John can't pull it off. He's not good enough. And then like after like 4 times of that deliberation and like telling me I had it and not, and then then it ended up falling into Florida Georgia Line's lap, and it became like a big hit for them. Like, the song's called Holy. It became like, and that was my song. I have the original version of it. And like, it literally, it became like literally it, and I'm so bummed because I killed that shit. That song was really good, but I mean, everything happens for a reason. But anyway, so one of the times I remember like waking up like 3 different times, like 3 or 4 different times, like throughout the duration of that like 4-month period when it was like getting ready to come out. And someone called me and said, they're not going to put the record out. They don't think you're cool enough. They don't think you can do it. They think that you're whack or something like that, basically. And so then I was like, no, fuck it. I'm going to fly to New York. I'm going to fly to New York and perform the song for them. Sit in L.A. Reid's office, play the song, and perform it for him. That's what I'm going to do. And so I invested money. I flew out to New York. I stayed in a hotel. And I remember before I went over there, before I went into the room, what happened? But yeah, before I went there, I remember walking back and forth in my hotel room, listening in the hallways of the hotel, listening to till the end. The verse when he says, last verse, I got to make it count. Don't speak on my bank account. So many commas that I have to pause because I can't afford to just waste the bars. When he's talking to yeah, he's talking about Def Jam. Yeah, when he if Def Jam will cut the check, I'll send Chris to go cut the like when he's talking about the label. I was like, that really meant a lot to me in that moment, because I was literally about to go to battle with my label. So I remember listening to that back and forth to get me hype up. And then I went there. I did the performance. I sang for L.A. Reid. I did a really good job, actually. I because that song was hard for me to sing, but I did a really good job. And then my A&R told me, okay, you sang, go wait downstairs, and he's gonna deliberate, and then we'll let you know. Then like 15 minutes later, he came down and he said, well, they're not gonna put the record out, but you won because you came here. And I was like, it doesn't feel like I won. I feel like I just took an L. Like, you know what I mean? And literally, I remember walking home. I remember walking back to. I didn't even take a cab. This is like the most emo thing ever. I didn't even take a cab back to the hotel because I just wanted to walk. It was raining, and I was listening to the intro from Forest Hills Drive into like I was just walking in the rain like back to the hotel. And then it went into January 28th. And by the time that song ended, I was back at the hotel. But I just remember like crying in the rain, like, and just like listening to that. And it was just after like flying out there, investing my money, ready to prove to everyone that I can do it. And then they're still like, no, you can't do it. So I think that a lot of people don't know why I have like such an urge to prove myself, and it's because of all that stuff like that's been said. And I always
oh, amazing. That's such a good story. That was such a good, we got to clip that out, D, put that on the gram. But we got to take a quick break. Zoom cut you off at 40 minutes. So it's going to be the same link. Just click back in and we'll get started again.
Okay, just right away.
Yep.
Just end it.
Like
Good, I'll do it.
Minutes because it's got to like reload and stuff. But yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a few minutes.
Thanks, man. Let's record it. All right.
And we're back with music and mental health, having an incredible conversation with Mr. John Lindahl of Def Jam, Bobby Boy Records. We got our co-host Brandon David in the house as always. And John was just telling us an incredible story about the mental journey a recording artist may go through in terms of breaking out into a professional career. John, thank you so much for sharing everything so far. It's quite riveting. The story that you gave is quite personal, and we really appreciate you for just, being open and transparent about that. I think it's amazing, brother. I commend you for your journey. I'm very proud of you through all that you've been through. I've heard your story here and there, but I think this is definitely the most detailed I've heard it, and I'm a part of the conversation now with you, and it's a privilege and an honor, brother. Thank you so much.
Dude, I feel so comfortable with you guys, and because like I said, you're my brother. Like I feel so comfortable, and it's like, and I know I don't think I've ever told anyone that story like on recording or anything. So that's literally like an exclusive. I've literally never told that story. Like I've told it to my friends, or a few of my friends, not even everyone, because it's like people don't really understand. It's just I'm also not just gonna say like randomly like what happened. Like it's because a lot of people don't understand, but it's just people, when I would get upset about it, they would always just say, well, it's like you made it far already, like it's what or like you already did this, and I'm like, no, but I like want to get farther, or it's like, well, it's not that big of a deal, or it's you know what I mean, it's just because it means so much to me. So it just that heartbreak is just so much for me to bear. It's I don't know, it's literally like it's like someone like in a relationship, like I've never really experienced extreme heartbreak regarding a relationship because I've always just been so focused on like my career, and it's always been number one. And so my heartbreak has all really happened just there,
What would you say, what advice would you give to other maybe young artists out there that are dealing with what you dealt with, like that depth, like it's almost worse in a way, right? Like you got to this semi-peak and then they took it away from you, right? Like what advice would you give to somebody dealing with something like that?
I would say it's such a battle. That sounds so general, but a battle in the sense of you have to be confident in yourself and get back up, but you also have to get out of your own way. You know what I mean? Like, cause when stuff like that happens to you, it's very easy, like I said, to blame the world, get jaded, get angry at everyone. And I get angry even still. Like I get mad, stuff comes up to the surface, but I'm constantly working on battling that because I know that I have to be my own biggest fan and I have to believe in myself more than anyone else does. But at the same time, I have to be able to relinquish a little bit of that for people who like want to help. You know what I mean? I just can't get in my own way or blame everything. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's a push and pull. And I'll also say, being self-sufficient, especially today, you have all the tools to be self-sufficient. Like if this story happened to me in 1990 whatever, like I would have to give up. Like I have you know what I mean? Because I have a studio in here. I have all this stuff. I can make it all happen and produce music. Damien, it's like produce music in my room or film videos on your iPhone, like film music videos on there because the quality's so good. Like everyone's gonna tell you in the industry too that you can't like be multifaceted. Like, for example, people used to always tell me I needed people to write my songs, or that I couldn't produce my own music, or that I couldn't shoot my own videos, that I couldn't do. And the truth is, we live in an age of self-sufficiency, and the ones who are DIY, they're the ones that end up being better, honestly, just being better, period. Like, are just more competent and just can do more. And also, they're typically more successful. If at some point they find their success, because you're not having to wait for anybody. Because when you have to wait for somebody, it could all work out in your favor. You could be like, Justin Bieber, and just everything just like you have to obviously work really hard, but the team's around you and you just have to just focus on one thing. But a lot of times when stuff like that happens, you get dropped. Like, it's a rebuilding phase, and you have to do the jobs of everyone that was on your team before. You know what I mean? And that it's just growth. Yeah.
Very true, man. Very true. Especially in the current environment with COVID-19. If you can't do your own photo editing, if you can't do your own video editing, if you can't produce your own material and write your own lyrics, you're pretty much fucked, right?
No, you are. And honestly, like, that's why I haven't been, like, I feel for everyone so much that have been going through this pandemic. And it's just like my heart goes out so sincerely to everyone. But so many people are feeling like, I'm so bored, I'm so anxious, I'm so bored, I have nothing to do. But honestly, like, this has been some of the most prolific times for me, because literally I'm in my room and all I can do is create. Like, I started filming these like minute movies on TikTok and started like scoring my own movies and doing that too. But also like producing new music, working on music and stuff. Like, if I hadn't cultivated those skills to the level that they are now, where I can produce full songs by myself and write them and engineer them, I would just feel so helpless right now. And that's honestly how I felt when I got dropped. I genuinely felt helpless. Thank God for Bobby Campbell helping me purchase. Like, he literally showed me what equipment to purchase when I was signed to the label. I used some of my signing bonus, and he helped, and he literally took me to Westlake Pro in North Hollywood, and he just like literally, like, he took me there and he said, this is what you need to get. You need this, 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 and this. And I remember I was like 18 or something. It was like my first, I had been signed for like a year, and I'd met Bobby Campbell, and he helped me like get that. And I've cultivated that skill over like 5 years. I've really just like been self-producing, because soon after that, like a year later, I got dropped. And so if I was going to make music, it was either going to be, I'd have to go in with a producer, which there weren't, I couldn't pay them. So like, not a lot of producers wanted to work with me for free, and so I had to figure it out by myself. So yeah, it's an age with COVID to be self-sufficient, but it's also an age just period of you have to be self-sufficient, because you just, like, you can't rely on people as much. I don't know. I mean, you can, but it's like, why would you? You just like be the best you can be,
Talk a little bit more about that process, or even like this album, like being self-producing, self-writing. Like, is it hard to sit down and be creative in like a window of time, or like, are you inspired by different things and you have to work sort of in that moment?
Okay. Yeah, no, this is good, because Damien can probably attest to this too. Ideas will come to us in just like the most fortuitous random times, or like just out of the blue. And sometimes I'll sit at the piano for a lot and not even go into my studio because I have to strategically pick when I sit down at my desk, because when I sit down at my desk, I'm not getting up for like 12 hours. Like, honestly, like I'm not like, so, but sometimes, so I'll have a song in, like, for example, like Lonely Christmas. Actually, I'll talk about it on the album, but like, there'll be songs that are in my head for like weeks. Like Famous was in my head. Like, I had that hook for like, since I finished it when I was 22, and I had that song in my head since I was 18. I had that chorus, and I never knew how to finish it, but I had a voice memo of it, and it took me a while. But yeah, so what I do is I'll sit, once I sit down here at this desk that I'm in right now, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm producing the record. Like, but a lot of times, like, I'll sit and write beforehand, and really I like to go in and premeditate pretty much everything that I do, but not for everything though. It just depends on the song. If it's a more organic song like Famous or Nothing in the World, one that or like a song that requires more arrangement like that, I like to really sit beforehand and then take it in, because it's a more classical, like a classic arrangement, and that's like what I grew up listening to, so I have a lot of respect for that. But if it's a song like Chicago, I just sit down and just like feel that rhythm and just like let the modernness of the song really carry itself. Because my album, I know you listen to it, it's very eclectic, like genre wise and sonically. So I definitely approached a lot of the songs differently, like very differently, which is kind of cool. Like some like Idols was really cool because I remember I didn't write, I don't think I wrote one lyric down. I literally was just talking into the microphone. I was just talking, and like that's like it just all came out like that 4 years of like that struggle just came out in that song, which was cool.
Is there anything else that like gets you in that place? Like Damien likes to watch cartoons while he produces stuff, or like, coffee or alcohol or weed. Like how much does any of those things play into your process?
I don't smoke weed just because of like my vocal cords, but like I'm all like, people smoke around me and it's like I never like chastise anyone for it. It's just a personal choice for like the clarity of like, just because there are like, Damien's a freaking freak of nature, because he can like, Damien can like just do whatever, and his voice is always powerful. Like my voice isn't like that. It's very like, I have to really like train it to have any kind of power, whereas Damien's voice is like so versatile and like but really brings that power, like, and you always know he's gonna have it. Sometimes like the only way I have it is if I really take care of it. So regarding that, I don't really do that. But sometimes I've been recently working on some stuff for like the summer, and when I'm with like Six and Post, because all three of us have been producing it together. Like it's been me, Post, who's Silas's producer, and Six, obviously, the Logic's producer, and God. We've been co-producing this project together, like this little like fun mixtape thing, and we'll get like, we'll sip and stuff, and it's nice. I typically don't do that though. When I'm working by myself in my room, when I'm by myself, I have a TV. Like I just got that installed like for Christmas like a little while ago, like. But I didn't have that before. But typically, I like when I'm just doing stuff in my room, I don't really like have anything playing. I just like zone in so hard, and that's good and bad, because sometimes you do need a stimulus from like outside. You know what I mean? You do need that, and sometimes it's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness, because I lock in so hard that I'll sit there till it's done, but also I'll start second guessing myself and going back and doing things a million times. Like that's why sometimes it's better for me whenever like I'm recording something like a live performance, if they're like, you only get one take to do this, because if you give me a few, like I'm gonna do a few, like I'm gonna do like as many as I'm gonna get in my head. So like I literally like I always tell people like if they say you only get one shot, I'm like, better, this is good, then I'm one and done, I'm good. So yeah, I don't know, but that's basically. But I've been watching Lord of the Rings a lot while I'm working right now. I'm like, because I love
The Last Dance.
Yeah, honestly, like I'll have Spirited Away on there sometimes, like anime. But what I've been liking about recording and producing with Lord of the Rings on in the background is because I love just the landscape shots are just magnificent. They're just so beautiful. So like. And also just like this, I grew up watching it, but like when I look over and I'm working on like this big orchestral piece, and I just see like a freaking a New Zealand mountaintop, and it's or a plane, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's good for me. I don't know.
How about like there's this idea from a lot of artists that their work is never done, but in the real world, like there are timelines and you have to submit stuff, and how does that work for you? Like
I have a story. I literally got my album got pushed back a week because I wanted to make edits. Because my brain, like I thought it was good. Then like a few days before, I listened to the album again, like really low, and I started hearing these things, and I was like, oh shit, like fuck, I gotta change this. And so I opened up my computer and I was changing it, and I sent it in, and like it was annoying because I got my album, like I pissed a lot of people off, and I got my album pushed back a week, and I didn't even get to keep the edits that I made. So like, but the thing is, I'm actually glad that happened, because like I said, if it was up to me, like I literally would keep, like Michael Jackson did like 96 mixes of Billie Jean. Like he made Bruce Swedien go back. I know Damien knows the story. He made Bruce Swedien go back and like remix it like 96 times, and they ended up going with the second mix. You know what I mean? It's just, that's a lot of like artists. This is what we do. Like, I mean, we just, especially nowadays when we have the tools, and if you self-produce, you have the ability to literally change the slightest thing, whereas you might not have had that opportunity back in the day. So it's like I say, it's amazing that I live in this time, because I can go in and like make these edits when I want to, but it also can be detrimental to me because I am such a perfectionist and I'm so nitpicky when it comes to my music that it can actually set me back, and it has. So there's a story.
Like a blessing and a curse, my brother John.
Gift and a curse.
Yeah, it literally sent my album back a week. Like, literally, I'm not lying about that. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Nor did I know that Michael Jackson did 97 mixes of Billie Jean and went with the second. That's insane also.
Something like that. I don't know the exact number, but I know that he went with the second mix because Quincy Jones came in the room and he was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" Because he knew Michael was getting in his head. And then, but like, because now you listen to Billie Jean, that's like one of the best mixed songs of all time. Like, that album is one of the best mixed albums of all time. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that those mixes still stand up today. Like, when those drums come in, those drums are harder than like any hip hop, than they're as hard as any hip hop track, any rock song. They're as hard as any drum you can like. It's as hard as anything, and so it's just I don't know where
pocket. Just real music, man. I think that's what the problem is. Music has gotten so hardware dependent and so computer dependent that it's losing all of the human touch to it, and it's becoming so robotic and stale that now, as you said, Billie Jean's harder than any trap song you've ever heard, because every trap song sounds the exact same. But you take the drum line like Billie Jean, which is something very simple from a garage band perspective. No, I'm not talking about garage band on an iPad. I'm talking about the original garage band, which is motherfuckers in a garage making music. A very simple, drum groove, but the swing and the pocket of that is absolutely undeniable, as you stated. And it still holds up today. It is absolutely timeless. Speaking of timeless music, as the Budweiser kicks in for your mental dependent host, Mr. Damian Lamar Hudson, speaking in the third person. Let me ask you this, John. What have you been listening to recently, within the last week?
Within the last week, I've been
And while you're thinking about that, let me go ahead and tell you what I've been listening to, because I already know this is one of your favorites. Bro, John specifically. Brandon, you could just leave. I'm kidding. Stay here. No, don't leave. Don't go anywhere. But, man, I just know Brandon doesn't listen to this. This week, I have been playing like Mother Teresa reads the Bible every morning. I've been playing Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
I've been playing that joint, playing it, taking my walks, listening to that, and just the way it comes on. Everybody listening to this right now, I don't care where you are, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're doing. When you're finished listening to this podcast, I want you to play Stevie Wonder's double album masterpiece, Songs in the Key of Life. Absolutely incredible album. It just goes so crazy, and it's so important for today, like what this man is saying about love and about energy and about spirituality and about God and about the way the world turns and about the way we look back on our lives and the way we reflect, the way that music has so much power. The lyrics that Stevie wrote for this album and the music and all the grooves, just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's what I've been listening to.
I mean, this album's got I Wish, freaking Sir Duke, Isn't She Lovely? There's just they're literally for me, I think I always loved the story of Sir Duke because he wanted to do a Duke Ellington type joint, and that wasn't cool at the time. It was really funny how many of the Motown artists were so infatuated with being jazz artists. Marvin Gaye literally wanted to be a jazz artist, and Berry Gordy was basically said no, you can't, essentially. But so it was cool that that Stevie did that freaking so that Duke Ellington like ode in a sense, because it's just that's one of my favorite horn lines ever. Yeah, it's so fire.
Yo, it's insane.
What?
Insane.
Yeah, it's so
Absolutely
good.
insane. And how crazy Stevie's like nodding to Duke Ellington, who's like my personal favorite. Like, I just love Duke Ellington. He's in my top 5 DOA every time. Like, Duke Ellington is so important to me. And for him to be in the mid-70s and to tap in to this Duke Ellington mentality says so much. But also think about what the lyrics are in that. He's saying they can feel it all over. They can feel the music all over. I was just talking to Voyager Fleet students about this. Shout out Justin Kraft, up-and-coming Justin Kraft. Remember that name, John, because you're going to know that name very soon as a pop artist. He's a beast. But I literally broke this song down with him, and I was like, bro, the lyrics to this song say more than any song has said the entire 2020. Like, it's crazy how timeless that album is, bro. It's crazy. And like you said, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. My bad, I cut you off.
Oh, no, you're right. And I also love that. I love, like, that's one of my favorite choruses. Like, you can feel it all over. They can feel it all over me. It's like so. It's one of the most, like, he has hooks like that all the time. Like even like hooks that really just like, for like, if you really love me, like, oh, if you really love me, won't you tell me? Like, just that he has these most like satisfying choruses that just feel so inclusive. And this, and I love I Wish, obviously, too. Like, that's one of my favorites too.
I Wish. Hey, and then after I Wish is Love You Like I Do. What's the name of the tune? I'm sorry.
Knocks Me Off My Feet.
Knocks Me Off My Feet. Oh my God. Such an incredible song. Such an incredible song, bro.
You know what? I'm gonna go back and listen to this. I've been listening to this album back to front in a long time. I remember I used to, because I know you're a record guy. You collect a lot of records, and I actually have a decent collection, because I used to go to like record stores a lot and stuff, and my grandma also gave me all of her old records because she got rid of her vinyl player, which was sick. But I know I have that album, and I listened to it when I was like 16, like all the way through front to back. And I now that you said that, that definitely inspired me to go back. Oh my God, Herbie Hancock played Rhodes on As
incredible. Another
that's
song.
Insane.
Incredible.
That's wow. Herbie Hancock is ridiculous, obviously. So,
incredible, bro. That whole album, incredible. Tell me this: who played on Sir Duke? Can you do a fact check on that?
Yeah, I'll do it now. We got Mike Cimbello is sick. He wrote Carousel. That song that got left off of Thriller. That song. There's a song that they left off of Thriller that Michael cut and everything. Mike Cimbello, Ben Bridges, Ben Bridges on rhythm, Nathan Watts on bass guitar, Raymond Pounds on drums, Hank Red alto saxophone, Trevor Lawrence on tenor sax, Raymond Maldonado on trumpet, Steve Medaio on trumpet, Stevie on lead vocals, Fender, and percussion, because Stevie plays like percussion on every song that he does, which is sick.
Incredible. And the lyric, he brings up Count Basie, Satchmo, who you have hanging over your right shoulder, and by soldier I mean shoulder.
Oh, you mean Louis Armstrong?
Yes, Satchmo.
Yep.
There's a lyric in Sir Duke which relates to Satchmo, that's the alias of Louis Armstrong. And then he goes on to say something about Ella Fitzgerald, and of course Sir Duke is the late great Duke Ellington. I wonder what Duke Ellington thought about that song when Stevie released that song.
Oh, I'm sure Stevie's a prodigy. Everyone knew that. Like, he was signed to Motown so young. Like, everyone knew that this kid was something ridiculous. Like, and so I'm sure that he felt like it was such a nod. And also, I have a question for you as a vocalist. I was thinking about this the other day. Can you make the argument that Ella Fitzgerald could you make the argument that she's the GOAT regarding technical ability? Could you make, because I feel like you can. I really like if you heard her, like you've heard her scat, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you could make the argument that Ella Fitzgerald is the best trained vocalist of all time.
And that's what he said. I mean, he says with a voice like Ella, the band can never lose. And that's also such an incredible lyric, because this song has the secrets of music. The secrets of the success of music are in the lyrics of this one song even. And exactly what you're saying. He says, with a voice like Ella, the band can never lose. When you have a front man or woman who is so strong and so technically trained and so performative, just colossal, it doesn't really matter what the band's doing, right? I mean, how could they lose with Ella Fitzgerald scatting away a whole bebop line in a C sharp minor key, like dropping it on the thumb like it's nothing, like insane.
Yeah, especially her, because she could literally take on the role of a player, because typically, as you know, back in those times, like, you know, you'd play a vamp and then one player would stand up and play, and then they sit down, another player would stand up and play. If someone's not cutting it, she literally can stand up and do a solo herself. Like, and that's a lost art. People can't really do that anymore. I heard Jason Mraz kind of scats a little bit, and which is cool, super cool ode to everyone. But obviously, like Ella Fitzgerald, that's why I say, like, you could make the argument that she's like the best trained vocalist of all time. Like, you could easily make that argument.
I think that's a great argument to throw out there. But I will say, when it comes to jazz, my favorite vocalist of all time is Lady Day.
Like, who's Lady? I've actually never heard of Lady Day.
Billie Holiday.
Oh, Billie. Okay, no, Billie Holiday. Okay, I know who that is.
You know Billie Holiday. I
do know Billie Holiday.
I threw a curveball at the Motown.
Tried to confuse us and everything. Like,
hey, I'm talking to the Motown Encyclopedia here. I got to throw them, some sliders and some curveballs every now and then. These
no, definitely.
Motown history down packed. I don't know if I've ever met an individual who knows the Encyclopedia of Motown records more than John Lindahl.
Well, yeah.
But what I can say is jazz history was my favorite class that I took at the University of Arizona when I was studying my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and we won't go to that next word, quote unquote, but we talked about it earlier. I'm in the hip hop world now, so we can't say that because that's not cool, right? No, but cutting contests, as you mentioned earlier, like Ella's ability, like you said, like if the musicians stood up and they weren't ready and they weren't there, Ella Fitzgerald would cut in on the musician. And there's this whole process of cutting contests back in the day through music, which was essentially who can freestyle the best in 16 bars. And
it's
they would
like
call it cutting contest. It would go bam to bam, ham to ham, wham to wham, just like a battle, right?
No, like it's like literally. I feel like because jazz historically, obviously, is a black genre, as well as like hip hop, like from like black culture and whatnot. And it's crazy that you just made a comparison that which is like unbelievable musicianship. Like, it's the same thing as like a cipher in a sense. Like you said, like one person goes over a vamp of the same chords and they play, and then the other person answers. It's literally like a cipher, and that's what's so cool about then when you marry like the samples, oftentimes in old school hip hop, or jazz samples or soul samples, but a lot of times jazz, and so that's really crazy that you just made that comparison, because I really feel like specifically what I love, I feel like specifically like black culture brought like competitiveness like to music in that sense, which I honestly like, which I resonated with, because it's really funny. I remember when I posted when I put out one of my songs, a lot of people, there were a few people that said you're like, oh, like you're just trying to bite off of black culture. And the thing is, I literally, like, I remember I responded, I was like, you're exactly right. Black culture has influenced me so much, but also Freddie Mercury, a Middle Eastern man, has influenced me so much. Danny Elfman, a white guy from Riverside. Like, I was like, it's unnatural and also a lot of these jazz and Motown artists that I grew up and I learned how to sing from that. I'm like, it's I said, I always say that I have such respect for the history of, I was thinking about this in the shower today, because a lot, like the best art comes from like pain and all this stuff that you go through. And what's incredible about jazz and soul and all these music is that it stems from ridiculous pain that we're still trying to rectify to this day, from like everything that has happened like throughout, just, you know, the people and all the terrible things that we've done to each other. And it's just, I just have the utmost respect for like these genres that have shaped me, but I always try to know where they came from and not, because like you can easily disrespect a genre or the way the music was made because, and just use it to your benefit because you don't know where it came from. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and I think that is precisely why the 60s and the 70s will forever be the greatest decades of music history, period, because of the milestones that the world was going through. The post-revolution, Vietnam War, you know, all that wild ass shit going on with John F. Kennedy and civil rights movement.
Yep.
Of course, amazing music followed that, because just as you stated, the best art comes from struggle. The best art comes from pain, because we are all artists, recording artists or visual artists or mental artists, however you want to shape it, because we have all been hurt and put through some pain at some point in our life that we have to express ourselves through music. And
you know,
it's the greatest form of expression. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what else I love about the 60s? Because if we're talking about like Motown and like the 60s and whatnot, like what I love too, because I was thinking about, because Little Richard just passed away recently, and rest in peace, Little Richard.
Not to cut you off, but Freddie Mercury was a huge Little Richard fan.
Oh, for sure. Like Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Like that's a total like Little Richard Elvis type thing. And so my point is, there were so many artists back in that time, like Little Richard, but that's before Motown, obviously. But I really felt that because a lot of problems that like artists will run into today that are influenced, like I said, by music, like someone like me, like they'll say like, oh, you like you're biting off of this culture. And what I loved about the 60s was, before that, there were still, you know, like white artists and other artists that were like taking sounds, like songs that like literal Little Richard songs, and literally just making like a different version of it and claiming that it was, and he never got the love that he fully deserved. What I love about the 60s was Motown. They were like, no, we're doing this in Detroit. We are doing this in-house. And it was like the first time that I really felt that like Black music was fully recognized in its entirety. And like, it was like, nope, we're doing this and this is what it is. And we're not going to anyone for it. And everyone came to them and came to Detroit to get that sound. And that's what I loved about that era, was because it was the first time that like people really weren't like biting it, because you couldn't really take it. It was the records were getting pressed there. Everything was getting made there. And I don't know. I really thought that was like just a time, like, especially during civil rights movement and everything, where everyone really embraced Motown. And it was a huge, I don't know. That's what I loved about it. I love that, because I know that there were so many people that just stole that music, and it wasn't like, and just claimed it and didn't give like guys like Little Richard the credit that they deserved. And I don't know. That's what I loved about Motown.
This is an incredibly rich topic. Rest in peace, Little Richard. I would argue that the godfather of rock and roll, especially rock and roll in terms of piano.
For sure.
But
100%.
just circling back a bit, whoever that guy is that left that comment on whatever piece of media content that you put up, and he said you were biting Black culture, I'm going to give 2 big of these guys to that guy. That guy can just go jump in the most shallow lake, and I hope he hits a nuclear canister at the bottom of that shallow lake, because music is blind. Music is universal. Yes, many of the greats in the past were Black, and many of the greats in the past were the pioneers of these genres: jazz, rock and roll, hip hop. Yes, many African Americans created and pioneered this music, but all that being said, I can't put a single color on any song, and I can't say that this is black music and this is white music, because that is just destructive, that is toxic, that is stupidity, that is ignorance. And we're never going to move forward as a civilization or a society if we keep labeling music with colors.
For
and
sure.
Knock down all of those barriers. Of course, in history, historically speaking, you couldn't knock down those barriers, because even Duke Ellington, who played at the Cotton Club in Harlem, was playing for an all-white audience, and blacks weren't allowed to come into the Cotton Club to witness Duke Ellington play his quote-unquote, advertised at the time, jungle music.
Yes.
Of course, race was a huge factor in John Coltrane's Giant Steps and John Coltrane's Blue Train. Of course, Miles Davis was discriminated against because of his skin tone, which led to him creating amazing music. But in 2020, we have to expand our vision, we have to expand our understanding, and we have to all know that music has no colors at all. I applaud John Lindahl, my brother, so much for a song like Nothing in the World, which has so much black influence. But to me, when I hear it, I don't hear black, I don't hear white, I hear pink. I hear
Me too.
blue.
Me too. That's weird.
Just love, like just
Pink,
this essence and this vibrancy of just great sound and great music. And that individual, shame on that individual, whoever left that comment, and anyone listening to this, we have to eliminate those ideas. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left of this segment, but while we're here, let me just finish this statement. I don't think anyone knows this about me, as far as the social media networks goes, but I'll tell this very quick story, which is how I came to realize that music was completely colorblind. Somewhere around 2004, or maybe even 2002, my dad ordered a compilation album from one of these Tom Warner 1-800s, buy this album, and we're going to send you a 4-disc set of the greatest soul classics from 1970 and 1975.
6 easy payments of 1995.
With 6 easy payments of 1995, you can own the greatest love storm music for the Quiet Storm.
Quiet Storm. Quiet Storm. Yeah. The Quiet Storm.
Right? So he ordered that, and they sent him a CD in the mail, which was not that. They sent him a CD in the mail, which was a double disc Ozzy Osbourne's Essential Hits. And my dad opens up the mail, and he grabs this out of the mail, and he's like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm putting this shit in the trash. I literally walk in the kitchen, and there's a CD with a plastic wrap all around it in the trash. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you just gonna throw this away? No, don't throw it away. At the time, I was an athlete at Woodland Middle School, and I was training wrestling. I was the 75-pound Bartow County champion. And our coach used to crank Metallica and Ozzy Osbourne, No More Tears, Crazy Train, Enter Sandman, you name it. He used to crank that heavy metal shit at the top of the volume, and we used to run around and train in that nonstop. So I was like, wait a second, I know Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, let me try this out. I listened to the shit, and I put that Essential Hits in, and I was playing Phantasy Star Online at the time, and I just had the shit on loop. And it was in that moment that I realized music has no color. If music is good, music is good. And it was 100%. In that moment that I eliminated all the shit that my dad had brainwashed me into thinking, like, oh, you can't listen to that white music. Oh, we're going to listen to black music. I eliminated all that shit in that moment. So I encourage everyone out there, eliminate colors to music. We're going to take a break, and when we come back on music and mental health, we're going to continue the amazing conversation with John Lindahl on everything music and mental health.
We got to get some sponsors.
Yeah, we'll log out and come back in.
Yeah. One more time.
Go back.
We were talking about how music doesn't have any color, and I'm
Does
certainly
not.
in a position, but I would say that when I was a kid, I got a lot of shit for just liking to listen to quote unquote black music. Like, you know, they would use,
In Orange County.
yeah.
Duh.
Well, not duh though. Like, why? What? Like, if I had been listening to Asian music, would they be like, stop listening to Asian music? You know, I don't know. It was just like one of those
Yeah.
crazy things that I've dealt with my whole life just because I like a certain kind of music. I mean, yeah, I used to wear like jerseys and stuff to school, but that's a different story.
I think for me, it's I want music, as Damien said, to move forward at this point, and now we really to try to, because music is blending in so many different ways, genre wise. I'm just saying, historically, I encourage all artists to really research where that music like came from, and or no matter what it is, like, or culturally, like what it, like, I just really encourage artists to really do their research and understand what caused that, not caused, but what created that music, just so you have a better understanding of people just in general, and because that'll help you create better art. And it'll, like, because that's the thing that I always say, I don't want to categorize things as, like cultural, like music, but like historically that's what it was, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying I want to move forward and have all of these genres blend together, but I just encourage artists to really research just how this music came to be, like why like NWA, like why they made the why that was that music, like why the subject matter was that, like what was happening in the world at the time, you know what I mean? What was happening in the world at the time when Marvin Gaye wrote What's Going On, like what was happening, like or even like even with the Beatles, like what was happening in the world when they wrote Sgt. Pepper. Like I just encourage people to not just like take the music because it sounds good, but really like listen to it and understand like what created it. You know what I mean? Like that's what I say. I think that's where people get seen as like, oh, you're disrespecting this music because you're not I don't know. I just think, just like anything, you should just really try to research something before you speak on it. That's all I say about it. I just think it'll bring people together. Actually, I think it'll help you empathize with people around you more. As an artist, that's literally what we're supposed to do, is display empathy.
Back to Stevie again, because once again, ding, 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 red light, red light. This is exactly what he was saying on Songs in the Key of Life. Music is so important and it's so universal. It's undeniably universal. Everyone can react to music when they hear a sound, even a toddler or a 95-year-old man. It doesn't matter what age, what sex, what religion, what sexuality, what heritage you are. Music will hit you, and when music hits you, there's nothing you can do about it. I really believe music is the most important thing in this world, on this planet. Without music, our mental health would be complete shit. To listen to Stevie Wonder as when he says, I'll be loving you always, like that is just like in the heart. Like anyone can relate to loving someone always. And when Stevie Wonder says the groove, you can have a groove, but it doesn't necessarily hit the groove. Like that is like, oh, that's like,
yeah,
it's groove. Like, and that's so huge. Like just because you the beat is there, and just because we have a drum sequencer on an MPC that puts everything in the correct place for you, scientifically, mathematically speaking, doesn't mean that the record has a groove. And you can't deny when music hits somebody. They can feel it all over. And that's so powerful. That's so amazing to me. And literally, music is so blind in terms of color. It took an incredibly talented, legendary, blind man to reiterate that message.
Yeah.
Like that, like just think about that for like a split second. You're talking about a man who's never even seen, what the majority of the world has seen, but he sees so much. he has his inner visions, which is
yeah.
See, me and John are just huge music geeks right now.
Yep.
This is probably the most appropriate music and mental health for the music lovers ever, I think. I think as a whole, John's historical knowledge, John's career path, John's Motown history books, and even, you know, just the Stevie Wonder conversation is so rich in terms of music. And I agree with you 150%, John. Everybody that's out there that wants to do this, everybody out there that wants to be a recording artist, wants to be a songwriter, a singer, you gotta study the greats. As Michael Jackson even said, there's several interviews where I've seen him saying, you gotta go back and you gotta do your homework. You gotta know what was going on in the 30s. You gotta know what's going on in the 40s. You gotta know what's going on in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Because technically, I mean, I'm just being straight up, man. It's better than anything else going on right now. I mean, that's
and it comes back around.
The artist, yes, the pendulum swings back, and I think right now we're getting back towards a swing of real music. Can you feel that at all, John?
Well, the fact that you said the pendulum, my jazz teacher in high school literally described music and politics as a pendulum. He described both of them as like, but like if we're gonna use the music aspect, like just it swings really hard for like complexity, and it'll go like very because like there were times in the 60s and 70s where I was like, musically, I'm like, or I'll say 70s really, I'm like, what is happening in this music right now? But then it swings all the way back, and then it becomes really like, quote unquote, more digestible. But then it swings, it just does that. But I feel like we're getting back to, we're in a new frontier of music right now, because literally there are new genres being invented by things just getting mixed together. Like trap music and punk music, I feel like are so similar. Like punk rock and like trap music, like those two are becoming one and the same, which is like insane to me. You would never like imagine like that, those two things to be married right now, but they are. And so it's like, it's really exciting for me, like, because I can make these these sonically eclectic albums, and it doesn't really matter, because my voice is what matters. You know what I mean? Like what I'm saying is what matters, you know?
Yeah, man. And I agree with that a lot. It's the messages that were so strong in the 70s and the 60s that made the music timeless. It's the message of Songs in the Key of Life that resonates with me so much as an individual in quarantine, locked up from the rest of the world. Literally everything that this genius man says on that album is so relatable to today. It'll blow your mind. I know I'm really geeking out on Songs in the Key of Life, but Stevie Wonder is an absolute legend, an absolute genius. I put him on the highest pedestal possible. Like,
yeah, dude,
give this man respect.
A Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, I'll give him a Nobel Peace Prize for Songs in the Key of Life right now. They should remaster that and redrop it. I mean, it doesn't even need to be remastered, though, because it already sounds absolutely amazing. Even on an MP3, even streaming platform, it sounds fantastic. I would love to hear it on vinyl right now. I don't have a vinyl player. So that's hurting me in ways, but I still have my music. And amazing stuff, John, amazing stuff. So
what about right now, John? What are you listening to?
Exactly. I was just about to say that. You haven't answered the question. What are you listening to right now?
Yeah, because we dove down the worm, which I'm so glad we went down the rabbit hole of Songs in the Key of Life, cultural music, and blurring those lines. And like we did, it was an incredible. I'm glad we did that. But I'll say, for me, I haven't really been like music wise, the main thing that I've been doing, because I've been creating a lot of music, like I've been working a ton and like promoting the album and doing a lot of stuff. But the main music that I've been exposed to right now has been when I am with my family, because at night, on some nights we'll watch, like we started marathons of like, you know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, like and then like what else? And then like Marvel and stuff. So I'm hearing a lot of like cinematic orchestral music. That's a lot of like John Williams, like, and I don't know who did Avengers, but like mainly like I've been exposed to a lot of like John Williams, and he's one of my biggest inspirations and stuff. Like sometimes like I'll be in the car, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'll like drive. I mean, we can't really do this anymore, but like at least right now. But there have been so many times where I'll just be driving and I'll play episode 7 the opening, just the opening main theme of Star Wars, and I start crying because it's so beautiful. Like, because I know we're used to seeing the credits and everything, but if you actually just sit and listen to it, like it's like it's just like for me, orchestral music has been a big thing right now, and especially like because people take for granted, I think, how incredible those pieces are, those timeless pieces that like John Williams put together, from like Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Star Wars, literally so many, and even like Home Alone, like so many scores that we just think like, oh, it's just background music. It's not like the fact that this man came up with that, and he's able to work on, like, say, Star Wars. He's able to perfect those pieces over the course of like 40 years. That's so cool. Like every single time he re-records the main pieces every single time. He re-records the Imperial March. He re-records the opening sequence to that to Star Wars. He gets to re-record them with every album. So it's really, like, for me, it's been a lot of orchestral cinematic music. Like, cause I want to get into film scoring someday, and I want to score my own films and stuff. And I want my albums to be accompanied by films and act in them with music that I score for the film, along with a soundtrack that is an album that could stand alone by itself. So like the whole idea of like a lot of orchestral cinematic music is what I've been listening to recently.
Great, fantastic. Which reminded me, I was gonna say earlier while you were just going on that rant there, how you were mentioning the fact that trap music and punk music are so relatable. Have you seen what Lil Pump has been doing lately and teasing?
No, what do you do?
Literally punk music, but like driving in a car and like screaming and like flipping his dreads up and down. And then at the same time, pardon me, Kendrick Lamar is about to drop. And Kendrick Lamar's album, word on the street is, has a lot of rock and roll, punk rock influence.
I'm so happy about that, because like it's just, you know what's funny is like that music, I've had to cultivate a lot of my skills and other, I mean, obviously I always was soulful growing up and stuff, and I had like a lot of, I had like soul music like just kind of in my blood, like listening to it, and it's like also just I naturally gravitated to it. But like for some reason I never listened to like that much punk music. I mean, I listened to punk music growing up, but not like enough to where, but it's the easiest genre for me to write like top lines for. I don't know why. I can literally write, like, so I have a few punk like.
What happened to that joint?
Yeah,
the RPG joint that you had.
Yeah, no, I still have it. I'm saving it for that's gonna be like I feel like that album is gonna be my masterpiece, honestly. So I'm just saving that for the right time. But no, it's punk music for some reason. It just like it's embedded in my soul somewhere. I don't know where it is. The angst is just there. I don't get it. But so I'm glad that Kendrick's doing that, because I love that genre.
How about the Machine Gun Kelly crossover stuff? He's done a bunch of stuff during quarantine, like a lot of rock stuff. You guys checked out any of that?
Yeah, no, that's been cool. He did that, and also Post Malone did a Nirvana tribute, which was pretty fire as well. Like these guys are really, as I'm saying, punk music is like really coming back. It really is, which is sick. And I mean, obviously, Nirvana's grunge, more grunge music, but I'm saying the hard, heavy, like electric guitars, like that's coming back. Like it kind of died. Like, 'cause I remember when I was a kid, rock was dead until Guitar Hero, School of Rock, those movies came out. Like that revitalized rock music, like classic rock. Like my dad obviously played it, but like no one was playing, like, I mean, aside from like the Run DMC remix of Walk This Way, like no one was really playing classic, except for like, I mean, there was like Guns N' Roses were in the 90s too, but like classic rock of like the 70s, like that was like dead for rock was, and then it got revitalized through Guitar Hero, School of Rock, and then it kind of died again in like the 2010s. So it's kind of coming back again, which is cool.
Pink Floyd is one of my favorite bands of all time. Dark Side of the Moon is one of the most important albums I've ever heard. Wish You Were Here is in my top 10 vinyls that I own. I've probably got about 300 or 400 vinyls. That Wish You Were Here joint is absolutely incredible. Led Zeppelin, absolutely incredible. There's so much rock of the 70s that was so good. I will say this, though, to play devil's advocate, from a realistic standpoint, I love jazz so much, but a part of me knows that jazz music will never return to the top 10 mainstream. I love rock and 70s classic rock so much. Even, the shit that was going on when I was in high school. Brand New, 311. I love rock so much. I know rock will also never come back to the mainstream top 10 billboards. But what I can say is, and what I am seeing, as you mentioned earlier, the fusion of these genres into modern genres is definitely coming back. And it is absolutely going to knock down any doors that try and hold it back. It won't, the doors are just going to bust open because we're so saturated right now in the same hi-hat feels, in the same 808s, in the same, trap drums, in the same cadency on flows. Like literally the shit's just getting old. So when shit gets old, something new has to happen. And I do believe it's coming back. That pendulum is going to swing really heavy back in this natural, organic way. And I think a lot of that is going to be because of the world that we're living in, the environment that we're living in. You got cats that are just picking up instruments now who, might not have grabbed that instrument, 6 months ago because they didn't need to. But now they kind of don't have a choice. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So let me ask you this, John. How is your current mental health in COVID-19?
Current mental health is honestly like it's good. I mean, I think mental health is something that whether you know it or not, you're always working on till you're all like it's a constant work in progress. I think you know what I mean. Like just always trying to make sure that you're good at all times. I think that it's like I don't know. I just think it requires work at all and energy and time in your brain at all times. But the best thing for me is like I said before, I have developed and cultivated a self-sufficiency and honestly a very like regimented like schedule. I've been more busy like recently because I just know if I sit around I'll go insane. So I've just been like forcing myself and setting and my mom, because she helps manage me, like we come up with like stuff that I need to complete by certain times, and it's really been helping me just continue to press on and forge ahead as if the world hadn't stopped, because the world's kind of stopped. So I would say whatever like the I do get bummed sometimes about like I get in my head about like numbers like what my like social media influence is, or like the fact that my album didn't like it is like not selling more than Thriller or Off the Wall, you know what I mean? Like it's just like sometimes I get in like and it bums me out, but the thing is all I do is focus on the work and what I can do next, because really like there are so many things that you can't control in this industry, in music and in life. So I'm just taking this time to focus on and control everything that I can control. So I would just say I'm actively working on being stable right now,
What advice would you give any of the listeners out there who find themselves in some of these shoes that you are describing now, mainly being this idea of numbers and statistics, analytics, following, social media? What advice would you give someone who is dealing with a lot of anxiety based on their following?
I would just say it's I haven't reached my, so it's I'm not gonna lie and say like I've reached my goal, like I'm good, like I'm still like I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But one thing that I always try to focus on is just staying consistent, creating, because content's fun, like making cool things like and putting it out there. It's hard when people don't respond and don't see it, like that was always hard for me. But just remain consistent and just continue to just put yourself out there, because if you're gonna be in this business, you're gonna be putting yourself out there every day for the rest of your life and not knowing if you're gonna get the response that you want, you know what I mean? So it's really just, I know we all want that the mass numbers and we want everyone to praise what we do. But we signed up for this. We signed up for the unknown of what that could entail, like emotionally even. So I'll always say, just remember why you started this, and remember that we do it because we love it, and we're always trying to put ourselves out there. And it doesn't matter who recognizes it. It does matter because it hurts sometimes, but just focus on the fact that you just the fact that you keep trying and keep putting yourself out there. There's so much to be said for that. Someone who never gives up is always going to get there eventually, you know? That's what I say about it.
Well said. So you said you're starting to work on some new music. What do you think you learned from the making of this album? Like, how do you apply that the next time around?
Well, what I want to do is, I want there to be like kind of like the hip hop paradigm of album versus mixtape. I really like the disparity and the dichotomy of those two. I think, because this is going to fall into more of the mixtape category, because the album, as you know, and as Damien knows, it was very rich in motif, rich in theme, rich in all of these like these connecting threads that like sonically or thematically or melodically would literally carry over into the next song. It was so crafted as a body of work that I want my albums to all, and also from a story aspect as well. But I do want to have, you know, and if you're reading this, it's too late, which is just literally just bangers after banger after banger after banger that don't necessarily have as much of a connecting thread as, say, Take Care or Nothing Was the Same. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so going into this, I'm really trying to just have, because that was okay. So like how I said, I don't really have any outside influences when I'm making like the like opening night. Like, that was so methodical. That album was so like from my heart, obviously, but it was so visceral, but at the same time so methodical and so precise. That was what that album is, and I want this to be more visceral and not less precise, but just so like first knee-jerk instinct is what I want this next project to be. And I kind of want my mixtapes and albums to be that, you know, like mixtape to be just me kind of essentially, as Damon would bring it back to the beginning, like freestyling, if you will. Not freestyling, but just like what comes to my brain first as a human being, as an empathic creature. Like what comes to
less
me
filtered, right? Less kind of produced like that. Yeah. Are you going for kind of is it coming together with any kind of different sound, or, you know, any sort of like notes on how that's coming?
Well, Six Post and I are producing it together, so there's definitely this is definitely leaning more into like me growing up, like more of like my urban music influences. It's leaning more into that, which is fun because I grew up loving urban music, obviously, and so it's very that's been fun. And also those are the typical tendencies of Post and Six, although they are very virtuous and very accomplished and knowledgeable musicians of all genres, really. But they're known for doing that kind of style, which has been really cool. So it's been good to.
Yeah. Are we gonna get some more bars? We're gonna get
some more raps. As of right now, I mean, not. I don't think in the sense of what you heard on opening night, because that was a story that like needed to be told. Like I told Damien this too. I only want to rap like provide raps when I'm really trying to tell a story, because I think that's my favorite kind of hip hop was the MC storytelling type hip hop. It's always been my favorite. I've never been the kind of guy that raps about that can pull off rapping about like going to the club or, you know, like fucking hoes and stuff like that. Like that's just not, I can't really rap. No, I can't. I can't really rap about that because it doesn't feel genuine to me. Like it just, I mean, I could write it, but it just doesn't feel, I don't know. Like when I rap, I want to tell a story. I want to tell my story. So this project is not really, as narrative driven. I mean, yeah, there are stories, but it's not like as narrative driven as say opening night was, where that would elicit a 5-minute long rap song from me, you know?
Just for the record, I only laughed because you said I will never be able to be the guy who raps about fucking hoes. I thought that was absolutely.
It's true though, because like I mean,
put that on a t-shirt, please.
If anything, I'll sing about it. If anything, I'll sing. If that ever happens, I'll sing about it. But I'm not gonna rap.
That's like funny. This is a funny concept. Let me ask you this, John. What makes this project a mixtape? It makes your last project an album.
Good question.
As I said, that there in opening night of the album, there was just so many connected like themes, like from a story standpoint, from like, you know, like having a dream, proclaiming your greatness, going through all these trials and tribulations, reaching your goal. Like there's a story, there's an arc, there was motifs that carried from the song to song, like melodically. There were like instruments that would appear on like certain songs, and like everything had like transitions in it, and it really just like it made a lot of sense. Like everything was crafted as a story, as an experience, as an act 1 and act 2, opening night, the musical. Whereas this mixtape is just like I'm going in and making a song, like I'm making the song when I go in like one day. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going in as opposed to going back in on a song, like going back in on a song 40 billion times, which is what I did on opening night. And also it's stylistically leaning more into, as I said, the more like, honestly, like I made Clouds in a similar fashion that I'm making the rest of this album. You know what I mean? Like Clouds was made in one day. I think technically it was 2 times to cut something at the end, but it was basically done in like one day, like written completely and finished.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really trying to. It's a mixtape in the sense of like the time that it's taking to create it, and also just there's not as much connectivity between the songs. They're just songs that can live together. They're like a bunch of singles. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna challenge you on this, as your brother, as a host of Music and Mental Health, as a man whom, like my co-host, Mr. Brandon David, grew up in an era which was the mixtape era. Now we're trying to be superheroes here. Me and Brandon, we're running around the world and we are catching all the vigilantes who say they're making a mixtape. And we're tying them up and we're like, yo, tell me about your mixtape and tell me why it's a mixtape. Because the whole mixtape terminology has gotten extremely confusing and it's not what it used to be. So
That's
are you
true.
telling me that you, Six and Post, have all created production that is entirely original?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Cause like there's no samples on this. Because I know, and historically mixtapes were like beats.
Okay. So wait, you said everything I need to hear now. You're not sampling anything. You're not doing remixes of anything. But this is a mixtape. Now I want to ask you, why is this a mixtape then? Why is this not just a project? Why is this not just an EP? Why is this not just an album? And to add to that, where do you plan on releasing this mixtape, which makes it a mixtape?
I'll say, okay, I don't necessarily care if it's called a mixtape or a project per se. I just want my albums to be an experience, and I just know, like, an immersive experience, and I know that this project or mixtape, if you will, is not as immersive as opening night was. And I just want the next time I release an album, I want it to be a big deal. You know what I mean? And like, not just this just, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, just as a friend, as a brother, as a family member, as a label mate, as a host of Music and Mental Health, I want to challenge you to not call this a mixtape. I want you to call it a project. Maybe it doesn't have to be called an album. Maybe it doesn't have to be called an EP. But I just want to challenge you to call this a project, because we'll clear up the definition of mixtape for the masses. We'll be contributing to the positive reinforcement of what a mixtape is. Things have gotten so twisted in the last 15 years on what exactly a mixtape is.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Once again, this is no hate or no shade thrown at you. I just think it's really important that we as artists really use the term mixtape when we want to actually do a mixtape. And it sounds like what you're making is an album which doesn't have as much of a continuity to it. And that's okay. You know, I think maybe you're just having fun. Maybe you're making music. Maybe you're getting some things off your chest that contribute to all original production. And in my eyes, once again, at the end of the day, you do whatever you want to do. And this is off the record, but I guess on the record. I think it sounds like you're making a project, and you should hold it as that. Because to me, this would only be a mixtape if you were doing Senorita remix. If you were doing
Might be dope though. I don't know.
I know. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Like historically, what mixtape like literally was like regarding like hip hop. I know. I see exactly what you're saying.
I mean, even again, R&B. You know, like even like Frank Ocean's Nostalgia Ultra. Yes, there were original productions on there, but he also sampled and reinterpolated the fuck out of Hotel California and MGMT's Electric Feel. So if you're gonna give the world a mixtape, John, I want to hear some remixes. John Lindahl. I want to hear John Lindahl on top of Lil Wayne's Shooter featuring Robin Thicke. What would you do with that? What would Six do with that? Yeah. Chop it up and send it back to you. Then serve me that, because I'm gonna eat that up. It's like, oh, John's got a mixtape. Okay, let me eat this up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel that.
Give us that, because you know, you're my brother, and I gotta look out for you. And
I think the other interesting thing about mixtapes is traditionally they released outside of major labels,
right?
And like now, just all the projects, they come through the same front door, right? And so I think that's added even more confusion. Like when you say that, like, is Def Jam involved at this point? You know, because that kind of makes it more like a mixtape, I guess.
No, and they are. So I know what you mean. Like that's been the main disparity is like oh yeah, like why is Drake calling, if you're reading this, it's too late, a mixtape, because it's put out by his label. And yeah, like I totally know what you mean. It's like it's mainly just, I would say then it's all I know is that it's not an album, but it's not an EP. It's also not an independent release. So it is a project, I guess. I just want my albums to be distinctly albums. Like, you know what I mean? I want a John Lindahl album to be like a Quentin Tarantino film, like distinctly what it is.
And what you're saying is this isn't a John Lindahl album. Am I correct? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not a John Lindahl album. It's a project. Like, and I like it a lot. I just know. I also know that in today's day and age, like you do have to release a quantifiable amount of music, and so it's good. It's definitely like it's music to keep people satiated, and it's good, and I do really like it. I'm just saying, like I take such pride in crafting a body of work that is like an album. Because I grew up listening to albums, so I just take such pride in that. Yeah. And this is great music.
Advocate. This is just a challenge. I'm just throwing you, a challenge.
Maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe we should come up with a new term right here about what the projects in between albums are called, because that's really what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, no, it is, because in today's day and age, you do have to keep releasing music. You can't, like, especially if you're up and coming, you can't just like drop an album and like just disappear. Like there have been so many artists that have done that, and then they come back and they never make as much noise. You know what I mean? Like you have to keep people like honestly, Justin Bieber, like they had him releasing music. He is, and also Bruno Mars, like he was releasing a lot of music up until 24 karat. Then he took like a lot of time, but like you have to build up to that. You can't just have one hit album and then just like dip. You know what I mean? On that, because yeah.
Within 20 seconds, can you tell us where you're going to release this project?
Yeah, no, it's going to be all platforms.
All right, so you're putting it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just to round up here, we're tailing in on our final 4 minutes of music and mental health, episode number 15, which I didn't say at the top of that. Amazing. Brandon, how's your current mental health?
Feeling good, man. Stuff is starting to open back up in Southern California. I think you're going to be able to like go to a restaurant next week, which is kind of wild. It's been 70 days since the last NBA game was played, so that's hurting.
Blues. Singing the blues.
But that's also open right now, too. The Lakers are practicing as we speak, so that's kind of cool. That's good for them.
I heard that. They're all going to go to Disneyland and finish the game.
Disney World.
Disney World. Pardon my French. I thought the mayor said he wasn't opening up LA until July.
No, that's LA. You say LA or California? Oh, there's 56 out of the 58 counties in California right now that qualify to reopen, but LA and San Francisco are not. Are the two that are not.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
The urban ones, right? The dense ones. So,
yeah, of course. It makes sense.
If anybody cares, my mental health has been deteriorating, and I'm addicted to Fallout 4, and I'm playing the shit out of it right now, and I'm okay with that. I'm staying up until 5 a.m. I'm waking up around 1. I'm touching my MPC. I'm working on some material for some upcoming projects, but I'm playing too much video games. But you know what? I'm okay with that. And that's my current mental health. We've checked in on John's mental health. We've checked in on Brandon's mental health. Brandon, what are you listening to this week? We haven't talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I tried to seek out some stuff that was a little more positive because it's tempting to sort of be down and like depressed in this moment. And there's actually a pre-release of Kygo's new album. I think we've talked about Kygo a little bit on this show, but there's maybe like 5 or 6 that are out right now for the pre-release. But he's just got a real like positive tropical house kind of vibe. It's not super serious. Certainly not going to stand up to any Stevie Wonder joints. But if you need a little pep in your step, I think it's there for you. It's definitely poppy, but it's got a lot of EDM stuff, and I don't know.
Dope.
It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. Yeah.
Amazing. So Brandon Davis listening to Kygo. John Lindahl's listening to orchestral soundtrack music courtesy of John Williams and the gentleman who did Marvel's franchises. And you know what I'm listening to? That positive music, songs in the key of life. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been absolutely amazing. It has been exhilarating. In fact, we had my brother John Lindahl on today. We busted open all the sauce. John, thank you so much for coming by. Congratulations.
This is awesome.
Out now.
Opening night. Everybody go stream it. Make sure you add it to your playlist and keep it popping. Keep the vibes going. My brother John is pushing the R&B pop envelope to the next stratosphere, merging genres and influences of soul and at times hip-hop and modern pop music. My brother John is on fire right now, and thank you so much for sharing all of your ideas and your stories with us, my brother. It means the world to us. True.
Thank you guys for having me. It was the best. This is awesome. It was really very just cathartic experience. So thank you for that.
Sure. Thanks for being here, man, and thanks to your team for help setting it up. And look forward to seeing everybody in person soon.
Yeah, man.
Some new vocabulary on this podcast. Magnetic. First time we've ever heard that word, and cathartic also. First time we've heard that word. We appreciate
music is cathartic, man. It really is. It is. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I meant that when I said it. You're a very fresh voice and a very fresh face, and we really appreciate you, man. Thank you for being you, John. You are an amazing person, my brother. I can't wait to see you again in person.
Me too, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Seriously.
Music and mental health remote, episode 14.